Whoa, that is super clear. Hey guys, you're watching QDCrafts. If you didn't notice, I got a new camera. This is actually the Canon G7X that a lot of vloggers use, and I thought I would get a new camera because this summer I'm going on vacation and I'm really excited to make some vlogs for the first time. I've always wanted to try vlogging and I thought this year would be the year. Anyway, I'm very sorry I haven't posted a craft video in almost a month. Actually, it's been more than a month. I had 5 midterms in the last few months that I had to work on with assignments, and then next week I have 5 exams. So why am I making this video? Because I don't know, I'm crazy. Everything's fine, everything's totally fine. As for this video, today I'm going to be trying out this Sunlu 3D printing pen that was sent to me from Gearbest.com. Anytime I have an opportunity to try a different craft and be creative using another medium besides Perler beading, I always like to take that opportunity and try different crafts and just be creative. So I'm excited to see how my 3D printing pen skills are, and I hope you guys enjoy this different video as well, and maybe you'll be interested in 3D printing too. And let's get started with the video. This is the Sunlu SL-400 3D printing pen, and I chose the white version because I wanted the little character on the top to look a bit more like Baymax. I picked this pen out of all the other models because it looked a lot more comfortable to use and probably easier for a complete beginner like me. The top of the pen is where you put the power source and the filament. I only expected the kit to come with the pen and the power source, but it also came with some finger protectors because it does get kind of hot near the tip, and 2 PLA filaments. I read the user manual, which I don't usually do, but I didn't want this to catch on fire or anything, and I set up the 3D printing pen. It was fairly straightforward. Once I plugged it in, I could see the red light, which means it's not ready and needs to be preheated. Preheating is indicated by the flashing red light and was activated when I clicked the arrow pointing to the left. Before we get into making something, let's talk about filaments. This 3D printing pen only uses PLA filament, which I believe melts at a lower temperature compared to the other type of filament, ABS. Gearbest sent me these PLA colors, but I also got a lot of ABS filaments that technically shouldn't be used with my pen, so I was sad I couldn't use all these colors, but they were cool and they sent me some more PLA filaments to try. So always make sure that your pen or model is compatible with a certain filament. The filaments kind of remind me of those old Slinky toys, and what you need to do to get this into the pen is take one end and feed it into the little hole on the top of the pen, but you can only do this when the light is green. I noticed sometimes that the light would turn green, but when I pressed the left or down arrow, it would go back to red, like never mind, still need to preheat, but I just waited a few more seconds and it would be ready. You have to insert the filament at a specific spot for it to grab on and slowly be fed into the pen, and once I noticed that it was moving by itself, I still helped guide the filament in a little, but really you can just let it go on its own. Before the purple came out, some of the manufacturer's tester filament came out, and this will happen to every previous color you use whenever you switch filaments. This is my first attempt at using the pen, and the filament came out faster than I expected, which took some time to get used to. Since there aren't any speed adjustments with this pen, I had to keep moving and make sure I knew where I wanted the filament to go. In this case, I didn't even know what I was making. It was just a random layered square, but from that I saw how quickly the filament cools, and when I tried to pull everything apart and break it, it was a bit difficult, and the piece was very solid after a few seconds of being melted from the pen. After I stopped using the pen for a while, it goes back to the preheating mode, and I just had to wait a little while for the blinking red light to turn green again before I started. The next thing I tried to make was a standing rectangular prism where I would actually draw the lines in the air. It was difficult to do this, and I don't think this is really what the 3D pen is for if you want a nice looking piece, but it works, and whenever I made a line too long, I used scissors to cut it to the right length. It is very cool that with this pen I can draw in the air, but as a beginner I decided to try an easier 2D project before I got into drawing in 3D space. So I wanted to make some calligraphy using my 3D printing pen, and to do this I chose a word and put it onto a font website. From there I could choose whichever font I liked, and although I wish there was a Hope World font, I found this nice cursive daydream that I clipped and copied onto a Word file so that I could print it off. I wasn't sure if the filament would be stuck tightly when put on paper, so I made a little test run. I just wrote day, and it peeled off fairly easily. Now comes the part where I traced the printout, and this was a bit of a challenge because I had to think fast and decide where I needed to move the pen to fill in all of the letters. For some reason, I wasn't comfortable pressing the button to make the pen stop, so it was all one continuous line. That cracking noise you hear is from the paper ripping off, so unfortunately when drawing over ink, the filament gets stuck to it and peels it off along with it. But that's not a big problem for this project since I'm not going to be looking at the word backwards anyway, and overall I'm really happy with the way it turned out. To switch out the filament, I pressed and held the arrow pointing up or to your right for a few seconds, and the pen automatically retracts the filament on its own. In order to use the filament again, you have to make the end flat, so I used scissors to cut off the melted tip, and the purple filament is ready for the next time. The next project will be 3D, but it's made by combining flat pieces together, kind of like how I make my 3D Perler bead jigsaw projects. By the way, if you couldn't hear, this pen makes a soft vibrating noise that I don't find too annoying, but it does sound like I'm tattooing somebody in my room or drilling into somebody's teeth. So if you don't like hearing what you hear on this video, then you probably wouldn't like 3D printing using these kind of pens. Also, using the brown filament looks like I'm making chocolate. And I should add that there isn't much of a smell with the PLA plastic. Sometimes I pick up a slightly sweet scent, but nothing unpleasant or very strong from my experience. I used the brown filament since I didn't have black to make 6 square grids by tracing the board. These will be my Rubik's Cube sides that I'll have to fill with 6 different colors, and that means there will be a lot of filament switching in order to complete this. And it's best to plan ahead and use one color wherever you need it before you switch. That's why I'm making all the brown pieces first before I get into the specific colors. I filled the boxes in vertically, making sure that the green filament and brown filament were stuck together. This part was very relaxing, and I was pretty used to maneuvering the pen and knowing the right time to stop it whenever I needed so that I could take a break or move on to another square. The whole piece popped off the board without issues, and this is how I did it for the rest of the sides. Something about filling in these squares with filament is very satisfying to me. It's like when you ice a cake or make pancake art. It's a very soothing hobby to try out, minus the buzzing sounds from the pen, but I could always put on a pair of headphones, listen to some music while drawing anything with plastic, so it's fun and I highly recommend this hobby. For the last piece that comes after this white piece, I needed a dark blue filament, but I only had an ABS blue. I believe ABS melts at a higher temperature and I shouldn't use it with a PLA pen in the first place, but I had no choice, so I tried it out. The filament could still fit in the pen perfectly fine, but when it came out, the plastic wasn't as melted as PLA filament would be, and it looked a bit thicker. Also, a tiny bit of smoke came out at one point, but I just needed to use the ABS filament for a little bit and I took it right out. I think it might overheat the pen if I used it for a longer period, so I definitely say stick with PLA if you have a PLA pen. With all the pieces done, I followed my Perler bead Rubik's Cube, which by the way, you should definitely check that tutorial out if you haven't already, and I used the brown filament to put the pieces all together. Some of the pieces weren't perfectly square, so I used my scissors to cut off those parts. Just by filling in the gaps, the pieces stuck together solidly, and it got harder as the cube closed up, but it was doable. The last piece was the hardest to connect, and the cube turned out a bit deformed, but what do you expect? We used a pen to draw this and turned nothing into something, so I'd say this was a pretty successful try at using a 3D printing pen, and it's not bad. Finally, onto the last project I tried. Oh look, it's me when I have to engage in social interaction. I used this Easter egg to draw half of an Easter egg shape with yellow filament. The hard part was getting this piece off of the egg. It was stuck tight, but I tried opening the egg a bit and just squeezing it to get it unstuck from the filament, and eventually it came off. Got it. The inside was so smooth, and from there I had to freehand another dome shape and make a starting structure so that I could keep adding on and building from there. This part used up a lot of my yellow filament, and I'm sure there's a much better way to do it, but I wanted to see how well I could do it freehand, and it still turned out okay. At first, this was going to be a pineapple, but it wasn't the right shape, so instead I decided to turn it into a Pikachu egg, which is also just in time for Easter. And that is a standing Pikachu egg. Here are the first 3D printed projects I've ever made. Overall, I would say this pen, which is worth around $50 with the filament being around $1 each, works the way it should and opens a new door to be creative and have a different medium for making crafts. The projects don't break easily, at least for the ones I made, and if I had more colors, I would try to make some figurines and maybe some more characters next time. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about 3D printing pen drawings and if you've tried it before. My favorite project is definitely this daydream calligraphy piece. It's simple but cute and I can stick it up on my wall as a decoration. Also, take a look at all these scraps that were collected from switching filaments and also making mistakes. It looks like it could be an art piece. Here's one more look at the pen. It spent hours heating up the filaments and it still works perfectly fine. I'm excited to use it again very soon along with all the leftover colors that I still have plenty of. If you guys are interested in more 3D printing pen videos, I'd love to try some more, but I will still have a Perler bead video for you guys very soon. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time with another QDCraft. Bye!